which is Death and Other Details on Disney Plus. Now, this is something that Sharon, on the surface of it, looks like it's right up your alley
Okay.
because this is I mean, this thing wears its influences on its sleeves. This is essentially we're gonna do Agatha Christie on a boat. I'm pretty sure Agatha Christie already did Agatha Christie on a boat. Oh yeah, Death
Yes.
on the Nile. But this is kind of like a modern day thing where you have this luxury line, and when the show starts, you have this luxury line, and there's all these rich people who are on this boat, and it's been organized by this business, this family that own a business, and they have called a whole bunch of their investors and people who they like onto this boat, onto this luxury liner that has been made up, that has been restored to look like it did in the 60s. So it has like a massive chandelier in the middle of it and all that kind of stuff. And while you're on this boat, they also one of the one of the characters happens to be the greatest detective in the world, played by Mandy Patinkin, who is so obviously a Poirot, Miss Marple kind of like sci-fi, is like a Benoit Blanc, if you will. He's just kind of like that kind of character. Just put him in there, and um, there is a murder that happens on the boat that night. It is a classic locked room thing where they're like, "How the hell did this happen?" Because no windows were broken, the door was locked from the inside, all these different things and all that. They're like, how did this murder happen?" And the prime suspect, so this detective immediately goes to someone and says, "You're going to be the prime suspect." And it turns out that she has a history with him. So she has a history with him where she doesn't like him because of something that happened in her childhood where they like interacted and all that kind of stuff. It comes as you go along. And as you go along with the story, it becomes this whodunit. Because Interpol are about to come onto the boat and about to take over the investigation, and they have to try and find out who actually committed the murder before Interpol come in, and they're just going to point a finger the most obvious person, which is this woman. So that is the setup. That is the setup so far. So much so far. I'm like, oh, this is good. And I remember I was watching this thing, and I think there's about 10 episodes, and the first half of it, you're like, okay, this is good. They are really updating the whole Agatha Christie thing for a modern audience. It is making sense. It is going. I am connected. Okay. Let's watch the beautiful people. Let's see what happens. It is one of these shows that I think there's a lot of films and TV shows that have been made recently that essentially say rich people are bad. That's pretty much the thing. Rich people are bad, and this is in that vein. That aren't rich people terrible? Oh, look how horrible they are. And a large part of the first 5 minutes is about how terrible rich people are. But then it turns out that the person who was killed wasn't exactly who he seems to be, and it goes well for the first half. Then I think it kind of falls off a cliff because I think these sort of stories, and Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, is like when you have a whodunit or anything like that, they work best when they are self-contained. When they're
Yes.
yeah, they work best when they're self-contained. You finish it. That's the killer. That's how they did it. Oh my god, aren't they clever? Isn't a hero detective clever for figuring it out? Yay! End of story. But this starts going into sort of conspiracy land and everything like that, and it feels like. Did you ever watch Prison Break?
No, I never did because it seemed to
No,
keep
me
going
neither.
on and on forever.
It did. Now,
And it
Prison
seems
Break.
like they get out of prison, then they want to go back into prison. So they could get
Yes,
out of prison again. I just didn't
yes,
see the point of it.
yes. Stupid. The first season of Prison Break was something that had a great hook. Like, okay, this guy's trying to get out of prison. He gets the schematics tattooed on his body to break his brother out of prison. Great. That is brilliant. I want to watch that. But then they kept adding all these things. Oh, it goes all the way up to the top, and there's the president, and then it just falls apart. And I think this show does a little bit of that. It starts off as a nice, good, well-contained whodunit, and then as it goes on, you're going, okay, no, this is getting a bit woolly. And okay, why are we going back to somebody's childhood? And why is that going on there? And what's that? And it just keeps on. Okay, who's that person? Oh, that person. Oh, why? Okay, there's some more deaths. Why did those more deaths happen? Or why? And it gets to the point where when they come and when they do their big reveal as to what's actually going on. I was like, oh no, no, just no. I was like, okay, that it has gone into the realms of the silly. It's gone into the realms of the it, I mean, essentially, I would love you guys to watch it just so I can go into how silly it gets and how I just feel like they waste the potential of the beginning. And then at the end, when I talk about it being self contained, they do a whole kind of like, ooh, and you're going to come back for season two and see what's going on with it. And I'm like, oh no. And the way they do it is like they're not going to just keep the detective character. It's like they're going to keep everybody for the next couple, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to do this. And they're just little things that they do in it that seem a bit weird. Like there's one character who seemed to have signed a contract that stipulated that she had to get naked for a whole bunch of the episodes. So for the first, for the first, and there's a scene in the first episode that they do, and I think, okay, I can understand that scene. The way they do it is kind of like, this is your mother's Poirot, the kind of thing. I can get what they're trying to do, bring it into the modern. That's good. But then the next episode, there's another scene where it's like, what's the point of that? Then the next episode, there's another scene with the same character, and I'm like, does she just like being naked? What's going on here? Why is it this one character that keeps ending up in these situations? Why is it that way? So in the end, I think I would have to give it. It started well. It looked good. I was like, oh, this could be a good new detective for to add to the pantheon. I'm really hovering between a 2 and a 3. I think at most it's a low 3 because I think it went well. I think there's Violent Bean and Mandy Patinkin, and it looks gorgeous for the most part until they try and do some green screen stuff, which looks horrible. But it looks gorgeous. The characters are interesting to begin with, but where they go with them or what they do with them and how they have this big bad in the shadows, and it just kind of like it doesn't hold together. It just doesn't hold together. So I will give it a low 3. I'll give it a low 3. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a low 3. I think just because I was quite happy at the beginning, but I feel like it just didn't hold together in the end, and I think my 2 would just be me taking it way too personally.
Yeah. That can happen. I think that can happen sometimes.
Yes.